Okay, this is a reaction video. This is from Mark Goldbridge. That's football. Please click like, share, and subscribe for him as well as for me. Arsenal transfer confirmed, Liverpool deal off. Well, if he's talking about Zubimende, Robbie from Arsenal AFTV basically said that was a done deal back in January. And Zubimende was seen in London. Apparently, he did his medical with Arsenal on Thursday, and it's just a matter of announcing the deal. But Liverpool deal off. We'll see what this is all about. But let's see what Mark Goldbridge has to say.
Hello everybody, welcome to That's Football. I'm Mark Goldbridge and this is your latest football transfer news. We're going to be starting off with a done deal, and it's a big deal for Arsenal. Also, we've got an update on Isak to Liverpool.
Now, it may not be, I think Galatasaray and Fenerbahce are trying to get a hold of Thomas Partey. But Thomas Partey may actually be staying in London. That was Robbie's news today. But let's see what this. I think this is about Zubimende, though.
Premier League club that's been stripped to the bone. Will they be getting relegated next season? And also want to talk about the Club World Cup and Ronaldo if there's time at the end. What are your thoughts on that? Chelsea losing last night, but is everybody losing interest? But what we're not going to lose interest with is the...
Well, certainly not the South Americans. Look, the South Americans are taking the Club World Cup very, very, very seriously. That's why Chelsea got beat, and that's why Boca Juniors played out of their work. Got a great goal against Bayern Munich last night.
Premier League transfer window. Zubimende is an Arsenal player, and it sort of slipped under the radar. I don't know how you feel about this as Arsenal fans. We were told this deal was happening way back in February, and I might get this wrong, but I actually think it was Sami Mokbel when he was working at the Daily Mail that announced this was going to be a signing for Arsenal back in February. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. So fair play, it's been mentioned for a long time. Over the last few weeks we've heard that he might want to go and play for Real Madrid with Alonso, he's not sure on Arsenal, but then David Ornstein was saying no, we think it's going to happen, or it is going to happen. Fabrizio Romano last night says Zubimende and his representatives in London to sign and seal the deal, he is going to be an Arsenal player. And it feels like a deal of such enormity that's gone a little bit weird over the last few weeks.
Yeah, it has. I mean, it's one of those things that has been known as a done deal for all intents and purposes since January, February. Now, Zubimende was wanted by Liverpool, was going to sign for Liverpool last year, but pulled out at the last minute. Who knows why that happened, but it looks like he's going to be an Arsenal player.
And I think it's something that Arsenal fans should really get excited about. Obviously, it's not the striker you want yet, but, and you can see Liverpool and Manchester City are doing business, but Zubimende into that Arsenal midfield massively strengthens an area where you're quite strong anyway, and he is a fantastic player to come into the Premier League. And low-key, it's very early to say, but he could be one of the contenders to be one of the biggest impactful signings of this.
Well, that's a big deal about Zubimende is his defensive ability and his that would certainly open it up for Declan Rice to go forward and do more attacking. And apparently Benjamin Sesko wants a release clause, which is something that a lot of Arsenal Premier clubs don't really like. And that's probably what's going to open it up for Gorkaz to come in, because he wants if he wants a release clause, what's the point of buying him if he has a release clause? Some like Real Madrid, which is who Sesko wants to play for, comes in, pays a release clause, and it just doesn't make any sense for Arsenal to go after Sesko in that case. But Gorkaz has basically said his deal is to go to Arsenal, so we'll see.
Summer transfer window. Obviously, I think Liverpool have bought very, very well. Kirkez, Frimpong, Wirtz, there will be others, but I think Zubimende in an Arsenal shirt, in that midfield, in that system, playing in one of the best teams in the league, he could be a real catch for the Premier League, and it's going to happen. I assumed it was going to happen, but I think last night we sort of got that firm confirmation that we're approaching July the 1st and the official signing could well be around July the 1st, and if Arsenal get that striker in, it's going to be very interesting in this Premier League title race. I think Arsenal are lagging behind Liverpool both on the table but also on the summer transfer window, but signings like this do improve them, no shadow of a doubt. Let's talk about the striker very, very quickly with Arsenal. There really isn't a lot to report other than what I said yesterday. It feels like Arsenal want to take their time on this. They've got Gyökeres there if they want to, but they're putting their work into Sesko, and it's not a bad position to be in, is it? Talking about strikers, a bit of an update coming in on Isak. Remember, we've spoken about this a couple of times this week.
Liverpool was trying to get Isak, but I think apparently the deal's off for Isak is based on what he's saying here.
No doubt, like other clubs, would move on Isak if there was any indication that he wanted to leave Newcastle and Newcastle would be open to it. They're reporting in the Telegraph this morning that Liverpool's transfer activity does not extend to a move for Newcastle's striker Alexander Isak, with a deal for the Sweden striker not described as imminent in any way, shape or form. He's going to stay at Newcastle, isn't he? I think that's everybody's, even Liverpool's most optimistic fans' view, is that he will stay at Newcastle because they've got Champions League football. They're not going to want to sell him, and if he's not pushing for a move, then it just won't happen. But I think that it might be something that happens in 12 months' time. Certainly, it could be, might not be Liverpool. It could be another club. But he is going to be well sought after. He's certainly one of the best players in the Premier League at the moment, and you can understand why teams like Liverpool would want to go for him. But interestingly, if that door gets closed to Isak, Liverpool's still looking for a forward.
Liverpool still needs a forward. I mean, look, they get goals from Salah, but Salah's getting up in age, okay, to be fair. I mean, so even though he still had a great season last year, Salah's getting up in age. You need another striker. You need another forward. Salah's not a striker, but you need a striker up in Liverpool. And I mean, you've got Wirtz, you've got some great players there at Liverpool, but you need a striker. And Isak would have been perfect for them, but I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think Newcastle wants to sell to Liverpool.
Obviously, I think they're going to focus on Guehi now because of the Leverkusen deal for Kwanzaa, but does that put them back in for Ekitike, who I think sort of suits Liverpool quite well? I've actually said for a long time, if Newcastle sold Isak, I think Ekitike is the perfect player to come in and play that system. So if Liverpool can't get Isak, do you just go for Ekitike and try him out? So it'll be interesting to see just how Liverpool work out on that. I think Liverpool also, there's something that was being mentioned on the United Stand show, if you don't watch that, it's our United channel. Last night, somebody was saying, look, it's been a very good summer. I mean, Man United fans are very jealous of Liverpool at the moment. They've had a very, very good summer transfer.
Yeah, I mean, right now, look, Manchester United had 20 championship, Premier League, not Premier League, but 20 wins, and Liverpool has now tied them with 20. And Liverpool is so far ahead of Manchester United, it's not even funny. Arsenal is so far ahead of Manchester United, it's not even funny. Liverpool, Arsenal, Manchester United has a heck of a lot to work on if they're going to catch up with Arsenal and Liverpool. And Chelsea, for that matter. I mean, Chelsea, even though they lost yesterday to Flamengo, I think they're far ahead of Manchester United as well.
Transfer window, and Man United have been very, very slow again. But we were discussing it last night about there is a clever element to what Liverpool have done as well. They've spent a lot of money on Wirtz. They got a good deal on Frimpong, but they're getting 35 million back from that money they're spending on Wirtz for selling Kwanzaa there. How that works with FFP, PSR, swap deal, is it technically a swap deal? I mean, I don't know. But the reality is they're getting 30 to 35 million pounds back on what they're going to spend on Wirtz straight away because Kwanzaa's going to Leverkusen where they got Frimpong and Wirtz from. So masterful tactics, and certainly not something to scrutinise, I don't think, in a way of controversy when you consider that Chelsea sold their bloody women's team in a couple of hotels and Man City are currently in a court case. But I think this is the big difference. I think clubs like Newcastle, Aston Villa, Chelsea...
Who knows about that Manchester City court case? Who knows what the hell's going to happen there? Nobody has a clue what's going to happen in that. I mean, it's silly.
Man City and now Liverpool are looking at, loopholes I suppose, ways to balance your books by being clever. And probably as part of the negotiations for Wirtz and Frimpong, they probably said, do you fancy any of our players like Kwanzaa or anything like that? And it just works, and you can balance your books in a better way. Talking about balancing your books, one team that did very well last season, just going to throw it in there, how do you think Bournemouth and Brentford are going to do next year?
Yeah, Bournemouth and Brentford were actually pretty good last year. They both did reasonably well. They didn't make it to Europe, to the best of my knowledge, but they did reasonably well. Now, Brentford lost their manager to Tottenham, but they seem to do very well. And look, they were better than Manchester United, better than Tottenham. They really did a wonderful job last year.
Bournemouth, Brentford we've already mentioned. Without Thomas Frank, I would worry about them. I think if I'm Leeds, if I'm Sunderland or Burnley, I'm expecting to get relegated, but it might be a more opportunistic Premier League than it has been for a couple of years, because there's a couple of teams that it's always who do you think is going to go down, and I think that's the problem for the newly promoted teams. I think all the other teams are too savvy. But Brentford without Thomas Frank, without Mbeumo, does that sort of change them? Does that make them vulnerable? Bournemouth...
That's hard to say, because look, even Brentford seems to be able to establish themselves. They get good managers, good players, good solid players, and they stabilize themselves in the Premier League. They aren't the best team. They aren't the worst team. They aren't fighting relegation, but they aren't challenging. But they are stabilized themselves in the Premier League. Same with Bournemouth, for that matter. Bournemouth has done reasonably well as well. They have kept themselves in the Premier League. They've been very, very good at keeping themselves in the Premier League. And, I like, even though I'm not a fan of either one of those clubs, I think Brentford and Bournemouth have done reasonably well.
Will be keeping their manager for now, but God, they're losing a lot of players. There's a lad going to PSG, I can't remember what his name is. Semenyu's now being spoken about. They've obviously lost Hulson. I'm sure there's some Kirkes. So they could lose half their team. Look, Bournemouth, you would expect them to survive, but it's a lot of players for them to lose, isn't it? A lot of players, and maybe that gives a chance to some of these newly promoted teams. Let me know your thoughts on that. Also, Club World Cup. I feel like I've hit a point with the Club World Cup where I'm basically disengaged. It's only been going for a week. We've done a few watch-alongs on this channel, but I think last night was a sort of low point with the Chelsea game, even though it was a shock result.
Again, the European clubs are, for the most part, are really not taking it very seriously. They really don't want to be there. It's clear they don't want to be there. But the South American clubs desperately want to be here. They desperately want to play, and that's why Boca Juniors did well against Bayern Munich, even though they lost 2-1. That's why Flamengo beat Chelsea. To the South American clubs, it is absolutely important and imperative that they do well. They really want to be there, and they really love this tournament. So the European clubs, not so much, but the South American, oh yes, they are taking it very serious. So it's not surprising that Goldbridge here is not that interested in it, or he's disengaging from it. But for the South Americans, they really, really are taking it seriously.
No interest in it. Chelsea fans, talk to me. It's just... I actually thought it might get better this tournament. I actually feel like it's getting worse. Maybe in the knockout stages it will obviously get a little bit more interesting, but I
don't think it's getting worse. I've watched all the games, and they have been very, very good for the most part. Inter Miami beating Porto. I think the Seattle Sounders has done reasonably well, even though they've lost both their games. LAFC has done decent, not great. But I think Botafogo beating PSG. So they've been some good games.
Even the shock results aren't actually giving it any more attention. It's just, I think the European clubs like look, we've seen Chelsea and PSG lose, we've seen Real Madrid draw, and people are trying to make out that this means that Saudi football and South American football are as strong as European football. I don't think so. I really don't. I think there is this confusion in the players. They don't really understand what they're doing. They don't understand why this tournament's taking place, and they look tired and fatigued, and they know they've got a whole year of football ahead of them. I think the best assessment of the Club World Cup comes from Cristiano Ronaldo, without saying anything. He had an opportunity at the end of his contract in Qatar to go and do a short-term contract or a long-term contract with clubs in the Club World Cup. He could have gone Brazil, he could have gone, wherever. And he chose not to. And the reason he's chosen not to is quite clear. Ronaldo is the epitome of rest, recuperation, and looking after your body.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, that is one thing about Cristiano Ronaldo. He's 40 years old. Look, he's not 30. If he was 30, 31, he would do it. Okay? Don't make no mistake about it. If he was 30, 31, he would definitely play for a club in the Club World Cup. Make no mistake about it. Okay? But he's 40. Rest and recuperation is important to him. That's why he's not there. But if he was 10 years younger, he definitely would do it.
Body for longevity and performance. And I think he looked at this Club World Cup and went, so I'm playing a whole season, I'm then playing in the Nations League for Portugal, I then go and play in the Club World Cup, I then go into a new season, I then go into a World Cup. He will be prioritising being at his peak for the World Cup. And he's obviously looked at it and gone, I've played the game, I've done it for 20 years, more than 20 years, 25 years nearly, and the reason I've done it is because I know how to look after my body and I know how important rest is. And I think he's looked at it and gone, this tournament's interesting, but it's a risk. It might not be worth it. And the month off is. And I think...
And look, let's be honest. Cristiano Ronaldo could just as easily get injured prior to Portugal qualifying, assuming they qualify for the World Cup and play in the World Cup. Look, Cristiano Ronaldo is doing the right thing for his body. Okay? It is absolutely... important that he get rest and relaxation prior to the new season, prior to Portugal playing in the World Cup. That is a fact, okay? But keep in mind, if he was 10 years younger, he would be here in the Club World Cup.
I think that's the problem that we're going to have, is that for a lot of these players, there is no rest, and they look tired. That's just my 2 pennies worth. Get your comments in below, let me know your thoughts on everything we've discussed. Make sure you smash a like on the video and subscribe. And also, I'm just going to ask for a little favour. I've got a new Instagram account. It's called Goldbridge Hot Takes. There's 3 hot takes up there already, all of them very good. The last one about the Golden Boot has got a lot of reaction on it. So click the link in the top line of the video description or the top comment. And give that page a follow, please, but also give us your thoughts on it. New page and lots of interaction on it. Something a little bit different. If you like that football and you're on Instagram, I think you'll like that as well. So check it out. Take care, everyone.
Okay, this is Arsenal transfer confirmed, Liverpool deal off. This is Mark Goldbridge. Please click like, share, and subscribe for him as well as for me. Have a good rest of your day. Thanks for watching.